The reasonable crowd that has gathered here to watch the closing ceremony has been waving and applauding and saying arigato, or thank you, in Japanese. They have witnessed an extraordinary couple of weeks of sporting competition, even if they haven't been able to sit in the stands. And I think that it has served as a welcome distraction for the coronavirus situation in Japan, but also the world.
Hello, I'm Jeremy Fernandez, sitting in for Paul Barry. Welcome to Media Watch. And what a fantastic effort by our Olympians who've triumphed in the face of a pandemic and a heat wave to bring back a swag of medals and give us all something to cheer about. Like Aussie Peter Bol, whose fourth place in the men's 800 metres final was watched by more than 3 million Australians, and whose heartwarming backstory the media just couldn't get enough of.
He was born in the Sudan, fled the civil war, Griggs, at the age of 4, ended up in an Egyptian refugee camp for 4 years.
He spent 4 years in a refugee camp in Egypt.
Bol, who fled Sudan before spending 4 years in a refugee camp.
And Bol's inspiring story was also lighting up commercial radio.
His family lived in an Egyptian refugee camp for years before making their way to Australia.
Who, until the age of 8, was basically in a refugee camp for 4 years.
Correct.
You get the picture. So did ABC Radio.
Peter was born in Sudan, 4 years in a refugee camp as a child.
And yep, the newspapers were lapping it up as well. In the Daily Mail, the West Australian, and the Nine newspapers, where the human rights lawyer Nyadol Nguyen paid homage to Peter Bol's parents, who managed to protect and raise him in a refugee camp. A terrific story, but get this, it wasn't true. As Bol himself wrote in the West on the eve of his big race,
despite what some people have said and written, we never lived in a refugee camp. My family emigrated from Sudan to Egypt when I was 4, and it was our home for 4 years.
Fancy that, a black man who didn't come to Australia via a refugee camp. So where did that story actually come from? We've traced it back to this profile in the SMH 5 years ago. It then made it to Wikipedia, and as we've now seen, the story became gospel. We're pleased to say Peter Bol's wiki page has now been updated, which is more than we can say for many of the offending media stories.